All right. Presented by Sega and created by Sonic Team. Let's get that intro.
I want to point something out. Oh my god, Shadow has a mouth! There you go. That's the first improvement you can see already from the cutscene revamp mod. Shadow actually has a mouth in this intro.
Oh yes, and by the way, Shadow smiled just as early as his appearance for all those who say Shadow never smiles.
So cool!
Yes!
Yeah. Alright. You'll also notice the moment when when they jump over the moon. Like Knuckles also looks.
Barks at the audience, not sure why.
Now you'll notice that Sonic and Shadow smile better right now in this bit here.
Oh, they're supposed to be smiling.
Yes.
I didn't even knew that.
Thank you, Speeps, for your mod.
For the record, because you didn't mention in the intro, I played this on the PS3, believe it or not. It's actually one of the few Sonic games that I actually went to play for myself, and I'll tell later what my experience with this was.
Is there a mod where they have the intro but they crash into the moon or something like it was a Looney Tunes
Probably.
cartoon?
And yes, you may be familiar with that motif that you're hearing there. We'll talk about that song and the soundtrack in general a bit later.
Also, the choice, for some reason they decided to have all the subtitles in Comic Sans for this game. Why?
Why not?
Also,
the font that they used for the first Sonic Adventure 1 was perfectly fine. Keep that.
Oh, hey, Omochao, voiced by Lenny Manella.
But this is a Robochao.
yep, Omochao made his debut in this game. A robotic Chow who is here to help.
Alright, you might be wondering why there's a GameCube controller screen there. That's because this tutorial was on the Dreamcast and the GameCube version, but was removed in the Steam version. Fortunately, our mods restore it.
Dare I ask, is this version of PC, I guess thanks to mods, compatible with an actual GameCube controller?
Well, if you can somehow put the GameCube controller on
It's
the PC,
very
yes.
possible, yes, but that's what I wonder.
I believe it is, provided you have the right adapters.
For a reference, I gave it a mention in the past, the CV11, actually did a review of Geist, the game on the GameCube, and actually did try controller with that because it was emulating the game.
Now, you may have noticed prior that we were hearing Sonic's voice for the menu prompts and whatnot. That is
Oh
because
no! I forgot to change the text from Japanese.
Yes, true.
That is because I had Sonic's theme selected. I don't know if I'll show that in an extras part later, but basically there's a ton of different character themes for the menu, which has voice lines from each character to select options. There's, of course,
On
Sonic.
the Dreamcast, on the original Dreamcast version, you had to actually download them from Sega servers. They were free, don't worry. The GameCube version already comes with all of them pre-added.
God, the old days of downloading stuff from the internet onto consoles. Never.
Okay, can I talk about that? Even as a kid, I always found it funny the way he phrases that. Sonic and Shadow's games are 3D action. You mean they're stages?
It's funny you mention that because, there was a bit of trouble with the localization process going on.
Yeah.
Partially due to executive meddling. I'm not sure if... You know what? Why don't I just bring it up right now, honestly?
Go on.
Okay, so... Executive meddling, essentially. As I'm sure some of you are aware, a lot of the characters in this game will randomly speak Japanese from time to time. Like, we have Sonic's Teria, Eggman saying Yosh, Rude saying Yoshi, Knuckles saying, and I kid you not, Ora, 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 like he's a frickin' JoJo character. And, Shadow and Tails also have some bouts in the Chow Garden.
And for the record, it's not a case where they just, accidentally left in the Japanese voice acting clip. It's, the American voice actors being instructed to do that.
Now, the reasoning for this is actually told to us by Ryan Drummond. According to him, the Japanese staff made him imitate the Japanese voice acting even when he argued it didn't sound natural in English. They told him those lines wouldn't be used in the game, then went ahead and used them anyway.
Great.
But it gets better because, you know, that's just like from Ryan Drummond. However, when that stuff was shared, the voice director herself, Lanny Minella, had some other stuff to say. See, Ryan Drummond had been interviewed at a charity stream for this stuff. So, yeah, that was a thing. Lanny Minella dropped in, though, and gave some other extra information, which I'm linking here. Guess what? This was actually brought on high by, well, one of the guys in charge. You know him. He's Mr. Alright himself, Yuji Naka. See, yeah.
Moving on.
We gotta talk about him, unfortunately. See,
I know. Go ahead.
See, Yuji Naka didn't care for the localization of the first adventure game and thought, well, you know, we can totally tell English voice actors how to do their voice acting better. It's not like there's stuff like a language divide or anything. Now, I assume there were translators and everything, but Lanny Minella has interesting stuff to say about Naka. And she says, and I quote, "Very interesting info. What most fans don't realize is how the script makes the first difference for better or for worse. Then the decisions on voices, even having to loop over pre-existing animated Japanese footage that was animated before any voices were actually recorded in Japanese, go figure, made it very challenging, and of course the decision to choose different casts over and over is not only weird, but when we were told by Naka-san, creator of Sonic, that he wanted the voice actors to look like the parts we were doing, I insisted he did not see the auditioning actors because that's just not the way to do things. He got furious, and maybe that's what eventually led to our replacement. Oh well, hats off and thanks to all our fans. Now, before I continue...
the first game's localization wasn't that great in the first place, but...
Look, I like the story of Sonic Adventure 2, but that dialogue can be pretty stilted. And I just want to point this out before I continue. Yuji Naka complained that some actors did not look like the characters.
Like, did you wanted Brian Drummond in a fursuit or something?
It's like, oh,
Naka's an idiot.
It's like, oh, I'm sorry, Scott Dreyer. You don't look enough like an echidna with boxing gloves and spikes.
Oh, did
Sorry, Dean Bristol, you're not overweight enough. So start eating.
Did he want that in the Japanese version too? Because last time I checked, Junichi Kanemaru doesn't look like a hedgehog.
Basically, everybody, if you want to experience Sonic Adventure 2's story in the best way possible, I recommend turning on the Japanese voices and using the retranslation mod that translates the script to be more accurate to how the Japanese script is. That way you can enjoy the story the way Shiroma and Kawa intended.
I'll be honest, I still do prefer the English voice actors because I'll be honest, these actors are all giving it their best, and honestly, the performances do sell it. In fact, a bit of a fun fact about Tails in this game. Yeah, so Tails was voiced by Corey Bringas in the first game. As you can imagine, puberty set in by the time of this game, so who's playing him? Corey's younger brother, Connor Ditto. And however, Lanny Minella was kind of against the idea of using a kid for Tails in the first place because, well, again, puberty. She said, I told Sega we should not use a kid for Tails, but Naka-san insisted. He also wanted all the voice actors to look like the parts they did, which was another inane idea. So, I mean, and again, nothing against the kid.
Let me just hear this, because I'm gonna hear it. Tails and Eggman's games.
Yeah,
So how many games does Eggman have, I wonder?
Also, very quickly, Omochao, it's very difficult to pay attention to what you're saying when you're just flying around the room. We're having a conversation.
Rank A.
Yeah, this was created before Rank S was introduced.
Yep. And yeah, I guess they probably really wanted to show all the cool stuff they could do in 3D.
Yeah.
which they did showcase. Oh, by the way, Omochao is not the only character Lanny Manella voices in this game, which I guess makes sense since she is the voice director.
Well, it's the same. It's like how she voiced a lot of female characters in the Layton series.
Now I just imagine Luke giving Layton Omochao-esque advice along the way. Professor, did you know that by pressing A you can proceed with the story?
Yes, Luke, I know. I'm trying to proceed with the story, but you keep interrupting me.
I was going with what Omochao said recently. Professor, do you know that if your life bar reaches 0, you die?
Luke, how many times do I have to tell you? Life is not a video game. I know it feels like it at times, but it's not.
Anyway,
Let me tell you about Sonic and Shadows games.
Anyway, to cap off what Lanny Manoa had to say, she said, "Here's something funny to note. When I was directing Ryan and Sonic was supposed to die from drowning, the script said, glub glub. I said, can we make the sound of drowning, or do we have to say those words? That's sort of like a horse saying nay nay. They said, nope, we have to say glub glub. I shrugged, said, okay. Then later, just because I asked that question, they complained about me being a difficult director. Come on."
Wow.
Oh, and for a fun extra fact, you know Big from Sonic Adventure? Yeah, John St. John was reportedly horrified that Sega decided to go with his dumbest sounding takes for Big.
He hates the performance so much.
Keep in mind, up until that point, he was mostly known for Duke Nukem, which is basically a diametral opposite, type of role, the overly, macho type of guy. So I can imagine him being more remembered for the derpy take of, Big the Cat might be really detrimental to his career.
Is it better than being remembered for Duke Nukem Forever?
Voice acting does not have anything to do with that. It's probably the least of that game's problems with. And to be fair, John St. John these days is still doing good stuff anyway.
And then there's me who remembers him most for playing Omega in Sonic Heroes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's like how Philip Barley, for some reason, apparently doesn't like the role of Mewtwo, which is a shame because he's my definitive voice for Mewtwo.
Is it that typical case of, he looks back at Pokemon as just kiddie stuff and that's why he doesn't like it? Even though he came back to voice Mewtwo for the flipping musical.
I'll have to look up what he actually said. I don't think he went as far as to say that. I think he just said he didn't like doing it for some reason, which is why Don Green is the official voice of Mewtwo nowadays.
Now, since we're going through the tutorial, you may have noticed something though. Sonic gets more special power-up items than Shadow, and Eggman gets more special power-up items than Tails. This tethers back to, again, as far as we know, the original intent was to have Sonic, Eggman, and Knuckles be the sole playable characters, but later when the dichotomy of good and evil was brought more to the forefront, we had to make equal teams. This also shows in the fact that Shadow is playable in Skyrail, where Sonic was blatantly shown in the E3 2000 commercial. Now, when it comes to the ratio of levels here, Sonic definitely has more levels to play as than Shadow. Eggman has more levels to play as than Tails, though it's not too big a difference. I believe Tails gets 4 and Eggman gets 5. And Knuckles and Rouge are probably the closest to being well, actually, no, they also is like Rouge is 4 and Knuckles is 5. The most biggest difference is definitely Sonic to Shadow.
That's
all right, then.
Tell us about the Knuckles and Rouge's games, Omochao.
Yes.
They suck. The end.
Okay.
Again, I'm sorry, I just can't get over that. I can't get over how he says games instead of stages.
Knowing what we know about how Yuji...
I think it would be more appropriate gameplay style.
Yeah.
Like,
I dread to ask, but was Naka still like that when they were doing the voice recording for Heroes?
I haven't looked into Heroes' stuff. Like, from what I recall, I don't think Heroes had as much a dialogue issue. Oh, don't get me wrong, the voice acting wasn't the best, sadly, but I don't recall the dialogue being too bad. Granted, it's been a while since I've looked at that.
Look at all those Eggman's robots.
Oh yeah, that.
Also, why Why did they take the pictures from the Japanese version? It's
The screenshot.
Because I guess the localization team didn't bother retranslating those shots because they would have to take screenshots of the equipment, which would be very difficult for them.
I'm trying to remember. Was that how it was in the GameCube version, though,
Yes.
or is this part of the?
Yes, yes, it was like that in the Dreamcast version as well. Well, keep in mind, what we're seeing right now in that board is screenshots of the game that were made by the original Japanese developers, and they were compressed into this format. And to do so for the localization without any of the Japanese text, you would have to redo and try to match the pictures perfectly, try to recreate those situations perfectly, and that would be probably way too difficult to do it seamlessly. So they decided to just throw their heads up in the air and just, we'll leave it as it is. It doesn't matter.
Also, I noticed that line. This is attack action.
Yeah, you can tell this is a literal translation of the Japanese dialogue.
I argue it's even worse. It was run with Google Translate, and I mean the early 2000s Google Translate.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this was also dictated by Yuji Naka and company. Like,
yeah.
I mean, holy cow! It is amazing.
As usual, Yuji Naka ruins everything for the rest of us.
It reminds me of Eastern European games that having dialogue stuff like try to pay maximum attention.
Although I should mention as well, this localization came out the same year as Metal Gear Solid 2's localization, which also had a overly zealous Japanese game director be like, you know what, I didn't like the localization of the previous game, I'll do it myself.
Yeah,
that is true, yeah.
That is true, but I'll argue that Metal Gear Solid 2 localization is still far better than this, honestly. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to crap on this localization, because like Jova said, the localizers did the best they could with Naka breathing on their necks, right? But I'll argue Metal Gear Solid 2 still handled things just fine. As for this tutorial box, yeah, if you play the Steam version vanilla, instead of this, you get a boring instruction manual-esque thing with no voice acting, nothing, just like pictures. It looks very cheaply made. You can tell it was added on top of this.
My personal take was that I guess due to all the different controllers of the time that, okay, given that Omochao explicitly says something like, A, B, this or that, and given all the controllers you could hook up to a PC, or the fact that this was also coming to the PS3, my best assumption is that's the reason why they put in that, since that would be a lot more
say
editable.
this, I don't even think I pulled up the tutorial when I played the PS3 version, but I can tell you that this thing goes on for way too long in this section, and all times it tells you very pointless information, like, yes, it's good to know, I guess, that Rouge, digs with her feet and Knuckles with his actual knuckle, but how is that, okay, I got that statue, how is that super, like, it is something that Minor Trivia can cut away from the actual control tutorials,
Well, if it helps you can press A to skip through the line.
I can imagine, because each of these, can be done, but I get the idea that in order to explain these, like, this is going, like, to quote Sonic, how long this is gonna go on?
Okay, I guess...
I can understand. Well, one thing we have to remember is that this was made during the early era of 3D games, back when 3D games were brand fucking new. So at the time, I can understand why the developers wanted to make sure they told you every little thing, just to make sure you don't get confused by anything.
And I'll give it its credit, this is all completely optional. Yes, Omochao developed something of a reputation for being kind of hated by fans. I mean, now we're more okay with him.
Omochao edition, anyone?
Yeah, it's like... That said, I get the feeling the devs knew, because, you can hurt Omochao seriously bad in this game.
You can.
To the point where he'll actually be happy if you pick him up, but don't hurt him. Like, look,
you have to understand too, Sonic Adventure 2 just ain't the same to me if I cannot hear Omochao talk about Sonic and Shadows games.
Give me that sweet Landy Manila ASMR.
I don't know, judging from what I heard recently from stuff like Generations and Free Riders, I prefer Laura Bailey.
Oh no, I prefer Laura Bailey as Omochao as well, but
I have to say, Sega really do tend to get some of the best actresses in the business to voice Omochao.
What about the Chow themselves?
Oh boy!
Wait. Omochao, you're not gonna tell me about the Shao Gardens games?
Okay, now let's talk about the actual game. What?
Everyone in the world loves them. Not everybody.
Also, what? You thought the main game was saving the world? Heck no! The majority of the game will be dedicated to these creatures that you can raise and essentially dedicate your life to like a pet. I'm not even...
This was something that Takashi Iizuka started experimenting with in Nights into Dreams. And this is them expand upon it in Adventure 1 and even further in this game.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, the Nighttopians and Knights are essentially the equivalent to Chows.
Yeah, and remember, like, in Shushu Rocket, you can download skins. Well, in the original Dreamcast version, I mean, you could download skins to replace the Choo-Choos with either Chow or Nighttopians.
Yes, and let me put it like this. You can spend hundreds, if not thousands of hours on this game, and then the majority of that can go to raising the Chow, getting a hero or dark Chow, unlocking Chow stuff, the Chow races, the karate. Oh yes, and you can even take your child to school too.
I thought you were going to say you spend a lot of the game on the tutorials.
Also, this is the early 2000s, so the Tamagotchi, craze was proper in full force, and Digimon was if it hadn't been released already, it was about to.
Yeah,
so,
the Dreamcast had a special feature where
you
the Dreamcast had a special feature where you could load your Chows onto VMUs and even transfer them back and forth between Adventure 1 and Adventure 2.
LTO by the time this game came out, Digimon Tamers was on the air in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I kind of prefer Adventure 2's Chow Garden over Adventure 1's.
Oh, same. Well, Adventure 2's Chow Garden overall is just more polished and better refined.
Yeah, for example, like this, the fact that the enemies actually drop booster vials, which are basically steroids for your Chow.
Those are Chaos Drives.
I didn't ask.
Those are Chaos Drives, Tio, and believe it or not, those were created by Professor Gerald Robotnik, story-wise.
Yeah, I know. Which actually, I will not tell immediately, what my experience actually with the game was, especially we're almost done with the tutorial. But I can tell, since when this game came out, I was barely 10. I have to be honest, I cannot tell how much marketing the Dreamcast and consequently stuff like this game actually had back then. So I cannot really tell if it was a case where, it was actually known. There is a sizable Sonic community here in my country, so it probably was into some degree, but I just don't know how much. I
saw a compilation of multinational trailers. The only Italian trailers I saw were the battle ones. Basically the battle ones dubbed in Italian, but I don't think I saw any Italian versions
the
of
GameCube
the
did receive a
Dreamcast.
bunch of translated commercials here, like the one of which is mentioned, so I'm not too surprised.
Alright, now you know everything you need to know.
He's done lecturing us.
Wait, I missed something. Can we start again?
No! Shut up.
But yeah, you know
Let's
what?
do the last story first.
The dark story.
I'm
Well,
going
it's
to do...
chronologically the first one. So.
Yeah. See, I'm not like most people who start with Hero and Dark. I start with Dark.
For the sake of giving credit, I want to guys listen to this cutscene and how the cutscene revamp handles things. I like it.
Units prepare to engage. Emergency battle formations.
Okay. You might remember how Eggman was very hard to hear in this scene of an old version.
Security area. This is not a drill. Repeat.
Wow, this voice sounds an awful lot like the one you get in the first Command & Conquer game, narrating the menus.
Here he is, voiced by Dean Bristow.
Grandfather was working on a top secret military weapon. The military shut down the research because they feared it.
Alright.
It's like night and day. Like in the vanilla version, it's so hard to hear what
It's
Eggman
mostly
is saying
because
in
of
the
a
scene.
combination of the bad design and the fact that Dean Bristol sounds very low in terms of voice tone.
I love how I just blasted away over
Okay, here's my... because I know for a fact that a lot of people do not like this gameplay style. This is actually my favorite of the three, believe it or not.
Oh,
Well, I can believe it.
you know,
I mean,
honestly,
simultaneously...
Again, you probably, for those who don't know that need the context, the reason why I mostly stay away from Sonic games is because ironic enough, its speed factor is kind of a detriment to me. It tends to be a bit too slippery, and I kind of fucked up a lot of the time. So something that's more meticulous and mostly about shooting things is actually more about my jam.
I can imagine now. I enjoy the running around and shooting bits over the bits where you run fast and platform.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair,
Sometimes being a tank is fun.
yeah, I will say now.
Yeah, it is. I'm not denying it.
I will say nowadays people seem more easygoing on the variety of gameplay styles in this one. One criticism people did have is that, unlike an adventure where you could choose how you wanted to play once you unlock the playthrough, here it's a lot more streamlined. Some prefer that, some don't. Me, I'm fine with it, especially since I actually do like all 3 different gameplay styles. Get him, as if you even can. Yes, you can actually punch enemies too if you want, because Eggman's just that strong.
Yes,
I did not know that.
Okay, might as well talk about some development info that Jova didn't mention. Originally, the game was actually not gonna have, back before the game was going to have, when they started emphasizing the good versus evil element, that's when they had the idea of splitting the campaign into a dark story and a hero story. But originally, the game was just going to have a long campaign unsplit. So there are, if you want, in my opinion, the best way to experience Sonic Adventure 2 story is through the story overhaul mod that someone made that basically melts both campaigns onto they were originally going to be, where basically you get to play with all the stages and bosses in the chronological order. So basically you can experience like as if you're experiencing like a long movie.
I personally chose not to do that because I do actually want to show off all the bosses, and that one does take out some of the bosses. Oh yeah, also just showing off that characters all have their own specialized whistle. You know that whistle that you hear at the start of Sonic's Adventure 2 theme? That's his whistle from this game.
Yeah, it's a shame we aren't doing the mod that randomizes everything.
Unfortunately, I can't because some characters legit cannot work in certain stages.
Johnny's playthrough of that was so funny. It's like SA2's story was already kind of convoluted enough, and now he's made it. But the randomizer made it even worse.
One thing that's fun in particular is the character select plus mod that allows you to play with any character in any stage. Obviously, that not every character can beat every stage for obvious reasons.
The Supreme Emerald.
So this is the military's top secret weapon. It's a lot smaller than I expected.
It's a ball of evil.
Enter user data.
Password.
In the wise words of Piccolo, the balls are inert.
There we are. Now
The password's Maria. Remember that name for later. And yes,
I'm sure she's.
I'm sure it's not important.
And yes, of course the government has machines powered by Chaos Emeralds. It actually does make sense given how important they are at this point.
I can't believe that.
So, fun fact, as somebody who had played Shadow the Hedgehog before getting to this game, a lot of this was me going, oh my god, I totally get now what they were referring to in that game.
Oh my god,
It's so cool.
The internet's gonna go crazy over this one.
However, here's the thing. Here's the stupid thing, and I can't totally believe it was something like Yuji Naka's idea. Throughout this entire game, a lot of the characters, both NPCs and Major, will keep confusing Sonic and Shadow for the same character, despite the fact that their furs look completely different.
Oh, by the way, for those who don't know, yeah, Shadow's air shoes, rocket shoes can actually do that. Let him fly.
Also, wait. Grant you one wish where we got Shadow the Genie now.
Yes. Let's just say Shadow's very mysterious.
Because he's
Should have been the
cool.
protagonist for the storybook series.
So, yeah, one thing I do want to point out is that you'll notice that there's a lot of storytelling, not just in the cutscenes, but arguably the levels themselves. Like, you may have noticed the interactive voice acting of pretty much the announcer over the PA as Eggman is breaking into the facility, getting through levels and levels as her voice gets a lot more frantic. It's also showcased in the bosses. One thing I love about Sonic Adventure 2 is that it is a spectacle showcase for the story that a game can tell, even in its gameplay, which you'll come to see in a lot of these levels. Like, for instance, this is a good showcase of just how powerful Shadow is, single-handedly taking down a guard robot after he's been asleep for 50 years.
Yeah, he basically just woke up from his nap.
In order to get an A rank on this particular boss battle, you have to make good use of the crates before the robot destroys them.
The bosses don't have rankings in this game.
Oh yeah, never mind, I forgot.
It was Sonic Heroes that introduced ranks to boss fights.
Yeah. I'm so used to everything having A rank.
That's it. That's it. As you may have seen, I got an A rank on the first mech stage. Now, the thing about Sonic Adventure 2 is that its ranking system is strictly point-based. Yes, this is a game where points absolutely do matter if you want good grade markings here and there. Damn right.
That being said, there actually is a boss attack mode in the game where you have to beat all the bosses in a good amount of time, and you get an emblem if you do. So make sure to make good use of the crates when you do that.
Destroying that guard robot was spectacular. So, Shadow, you are the military's top secret weapon. But what did you mean when you said you will grant me a wish?
Bring more Chaos Emeralds.
Wakes up, beats security robot, tells him to bring Chaos Emeralds, and meet him up.
Refuses to elaborate.
Yep.
Of course you don't, Doctor. I'm speaking in riddles. That's kind of the point. Like a clue that will make you go, oh, so that's what you meant.
Also, because
Someone
he's
get him some coffee
mysterious and
beans.
So cool.
Yes,
Yeah, bring me more emeralds.
Izuka has gone on to say that they intentionally made Shadow as mysterious as possible to leave room for him and also vouch for the story as well, which actually does work out well for this game's story, as you'll come to see. So yes, the story has begun anew, with Dr. Eggman breaking into a prison island top secretly guarded by the military, and a mysterious doppelganger of Sonic the Hedgehog, who promises him a wish. But to what end? Well, we'll just have to see as the story continues in the next part.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
See you then.